It's gonna be fun. So the first thing we're going to do today on the stream is we're going to take a look at a starting 11 potentially. I think we should take a look at France first, Alex. So you got the handy tool if you want to bring it up. I will stop sharing my screen, and we will build a starting 11 for both sides. So do you want to begin with Canada?
Yeah, I suppose so. I guess first off, if we're gonna do this, we're gonna have to settle on a formation, right? We couldn't find. Do we go kind of the 3-4-2-1? That's what I put just for now, because that's the last formation Canada uses. Or do we think they're gonna risk a back three against a team that has Mbappe, Dembele, Thuram, Colomwani? Do they maybe go for a back four?
I'm a little curious because last time we did this, it was so funny because I usually go one of two ways. It's just kind of depending how I'm feeling on the live stream, and I'll say, all right, Alex, put your BLO hat on. Let's build that team. Just to try to see what may happen. Or I say, let's put on our hat. Last time I said, let's put on the BLO hat. I can't remember exactly what it was for. If it was a starting 11 or just a roster. And the chat didn't like that. I said, Alex, Josh, put your own damn hat on. Build the team the way that you want to do it. So let's go that route today, Alex. This is going to be completely what we think BLO should do, just to try to balance out for last time. So, which is again, it's harder for me because I don't like when I want to do things. I see it like it's like, for example, a 4-3-3, and I think it looks beautiful, but I just know it'll never happen. However, I don't know. I'm torn, Alex. You're a little bit more critical with the starting 11. So you pick the starting 11, and then I can try to put the pieces together. So what do you want?
I mean,
or
if
what?
because what I'd say is, look, if we can't decide, the chat can also let us know if they want us to, go for what Canada might look like, or do you want us to just, to go more our route. I mean, what we can also do is we can also build France first and kind of analyze what they might look like and pick how Canada might counter that too, because I think that's going to be important. That, all right, how are you going to neutralize the fact that Mbappe might be on that left half space and he's just so lethal there, right? Like for Canada, you want to be very strong on the right side, for example.
Let's do that. I'm a little bit more. I can do this. So France have been playing the 4-2-3-1, right? Which you already have that in play. I'm not sure why it says I'm not sure what system that says, but yeah, it's a 4-2-3-1, right? So,
Yeah,
Magic Mike can go can go in net. I think that's probably pretty easy there.
Yeah, well, basically, I have some stats here on France. They've used a 4-3-3 in 50% of their games over the last year, and then a 4-2-3-1 in 40% of their games. So essentially, it's always some sort of variation of the 4-3-3 or the 4-2-3-1. I mean, right now I can put in the locked in starters. Like, for example, you got Mbappe. That's that one. That one you can also probably write in pen underneath them. Because he missed out on the last window, but you got to put Griezmann in there. Where things get interesting, I guess, is kind of around them in midfield and at the back, because it feels like on paper the best midfield is CanMNT and Tchouaméni. They love to use Adrien Rabiot. I think DJ Deschamps just loves the athleticism he brings and like his ability to cover ground. He kind of has him in the Blaise Matuidi role. Also up front, they rotate between guys like Giroud, Colomwani, Thuram.
Yeah, I feel at least from when I've watched them, I always feel like it's Rabiot and Tchouaméni recently in the double pivot. But I mean, maybe like just what I've been seeing. So I that's kind of what I would go with, unless you think that CanMNT would sneak in there. But that's just I don't know. That's what I've seen.
He's been having a really good season for Real. So I do wonder. Let's see what they went with last game. Last game they played Chile, of course. They went for a 4-3-3. And in that 4-3-3, they went with the midfield of Camavinga, Tchouaméni, and Fofana. So do we?
And the one against Germany, they had Tchouaméni and Rabiot in there, but they didn't. I mean, they don't have Griezmann because he wasn't available, so they played the 4-3-3, which is interesting.
Warren Emery, who's a heck of a player too. So someone I'm sure might see the field against Canada. But let's that's a good question. Let's go Tchouaméni and Rabiot. Let's go for Deschamps. Okay. We'll have to put our DJ Deschamps hat on, and in France he's known for being a bit more cautious. But hey, he's won a World Cup and made a final. That's the funny thing with him. He can get away with benching a CanMNT because he gets results. So funny how
And
it
I,
works.
and I would say the Hernandez brothers, maybe left Teo on left back, Lucas center back, right? Is that, and then Saliba the other center back? I mean,
Put Saliba for sure.
Upamecano should not be anywhere near that starting 11. See, Jonathan
Put
Klaus
Koundé
started
at
the
right
last.
back.
Koundé, yeah, I like that. And then I
I
would
know he
say,
hates playing or what is he? He hates playing right back, but for this, sorry, dude. And I guess we can put L Hernandez and then T Hernandez. I think we're getting
good.
somewhere here.
Yeah, it's a good looking team so far. And then on the left, Kingsley Coman, we just saw was going to be missing. I don't know. I would say Dembele is probably a better shout to start. Maybe Marcus Thuram, maybe Diaby. I'd say probably Dembele on the right, and
I'd say
then
maybe Dembele Thuram.
there's the final two.
I know Giroud always ends up starting, but it's interesting. He started against Germany and then against Chile. He also started. So I guess do we go Giroud Thuram maybe in that case?
Yeah, they might try something a little experimental against this Canadian side, just a touch without Organ and yeah, okay, I like that. All right.
I know they're flexible with their attack, right? Like sometimes Thuram plays on the wing or whatnot. So that's pretty darn good looking squad there for France.
And then you did go with the system that I believe that Biello will go with, which, you know, the 3-4 kind of 2-1 system. If it was you, Alex, because we're not putting our Biello hat on, if it was you, what system do you think best would... Oh, we gotta, just before I ask you, I guess, we gotta comment. 4-3-3, 4-5-1, Davies and Johnson as the fullbacks, get Bombito in the starting 11, which I think he's done an excellent shout for so far with his start to the season with the Rapids. Smith and Coline, unfortunately, I don't think are anywhere near the getting called in quite yet. So, especially Smith. Coline's having a decent season. I just think it's not a high enough level, but I don't mind the shout. Alex is a big fan of the 4-3-3. Do you think this Canadian side could do it?
Well, the way I'm thinking is we built France's lineup, right? So like, what are the strengths? First off, there's a big strength. It's Mbappe. Like he's for France. He's so dangerous down the left hand side, and now I think we're starting to see a more mature version of Mbappe. Watching him the last year, where before he kind of always had to get involved, so he'd always be drifting to wherever the ball is. But now I don't know if it's because he spent that 2 years with Messi in Paris. Or if it's just been something he's learned as he's gone older. He's a lot more comfortable and just like maybe there'll be 20-30 periods where he doesn't see the ball at all, but he's touching that left wing, stretching, and then the ball comes to him 1-2 touch, opening up space for the other. So I think Mbappe is the big one, making sure you're solid down that right side for Canada right around here. I don't know if my mouse shows up on the screen when I do that. Do you see it if I move it like this?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I see it.
Okay, so yeah, be solid here against Mbappe. Sometimes he cuts inside too, which opens up the Hernandez overlap. So that's another reason to be wary of that left side. Another thing's the midfield, because this is a very good midfield. And then heck, if it's Camavinga, if it's Warren Zeremri, if it's all these other guys, midfield's going to be important. So that's something I'd keep an eye on for Canada. Otherwise, the threats of Giroud, Thuram, usually how Deschamps loves to do it is like Giroud hold up player. So you need someone who can physically deal with that sort of hold up play, that crossing, but at the same time, he likes to play it off for Mbappe, for a Thuram, for a Dembele, Coman, whoever it is. So you have to have a bit of speed. And then I guess other than that, those are probably the big threats to worry about.
What about dealing with someone like Antoine Griezmann? He's got the ability to roam, almost like a little bit like that, you know, Messi's got the ability to roam. That's very difficult to be able to try to, you know, plan around, just because you see Griezmann doing a little bit of everything, especially even on the defensive side of the ball. He is the complete player, one of my favorite players to watch. At least I think he's one of the biggest threats along with Mbappe on this side. So I'm curious to...
No, I agree with you.
To try to...
I think based on this, I like the 4-5-1 show from Afrikaans. I think something where it's like a 4-3-3, yes, it's essentially a 4-5-1, but you're reconnaissant, let's just say, of the threat that can be provided in midfield, and you play a true six to kind of match up with Griezmann.
A little four, maybe like 4-1-4-1. Is that kind of what it looks like right there? Or
Yeah, actually, you know what? Let's
four
call
one
it a
four one.
4-1-4-1.
Okay, all right. I like that. Okay, then let's build our team.
And
But quickly,
also,
Alex, we are getting asked about the website because it is an impressive website. So let our chat know, because Alex showed me this
yeah.
website. I've never found it before, but it is pretty cool for anyone who likes building starting 11s.
Yeah, this one is called sharemytactics.com. You can see my mouse circling right there. Here they are. You can donate to it. They're proud to be used by many sites. Hey, maybe we'll have to ask them to get One Soccer included on that list of sites that use it. It's great because you can put your own team, you can put the opponent. Usually, how I do it is like the way it's designed is you can like actually line it up on the side with the players, which we can do after. We're just building the lineup right now for Canada and for France. But no, it's a great website. So shout out to them for the great service.
Bombito versus Mbappe. I'm excited to see what you have to say. Bombito versus Mbappe could be an interesting one, and I want to see if you. I want to. Yeah, I guess I want to see if you get him in here, because I know you've been talking about Bombito for a long time, Alex. And to your credit, I have been a little skeptical about how quickly I thought he was going to get into a starting 11 in this Canadian side. He's done nothing but impress me so far this season with the Rapids. So I'll let you gloat in that ability, and give me a shout. Give me a reason. Give me the number one reason why you think he deserves to start, if indeed you do.
Well, I think if we're just going to dive into Bombito, it's the speed. It's the speed. Of course, you can argue about everything else. The reality is the MLS last weekend, they put out a tweet because in Bombito, in one of the games, he was tracked in at over 38 kilometers an hour. I think it was around 22 miles. He was rated as the fastest player in MLS, like so far this year, and because they track sprints. He's a center back who is 6'4", by the way. Like, this isn't some 5'11" guy you could jet, or something like a 6'2" winger. No, this is a 6'4" center back who clocked in higher speeds than what Alphonso Davies has put up this year. Of course, we know Davies put up faster in the past in different systems. This year he hasn't asked to run as much under Tuchel. Just to give you an idea, Bombito has, maybe not Davies-esque pace, because no one does unless you're Mbappe, funnily enough. He's in that realm, though. So first of all, the speed is huge, because how often, again, say someone like Steven Vittoria, I'll use him as an example, because I think he's always been a very great defender, but the big thing with Vittoria was he didn't have the legs. So what did that mean when Canada played with him in the back three? It meant they naturally had to drop a little deeper, just because if he played high, Vittoria, if he got caught out of position, it was game over. He'd eat a yellow, he'd get beat, etc. What's nice with Bombito is you can take more risks. I know this is an interesting debate. Some people are like, oh, those speed he's using, it's a terrible example because it means he's always out of position. When you're a fast center back, that's the art of it. You can almost tempt forwards. Be like, yeah, here, I'm playing a high line. I dare you to go run, because you know that you can recover. It's like Davies at Bayern, right? Remember that year one where he had all those recovery runs of, oh yeah, let's just let the striker go ahead of me. Oh yeah, just kidding. You thought you had me. You're funny. Of course, against Mbappe, you can't get away with that sort of stuff, but it is nice to know that, say Mbappe gets past the right winger, gets past the right back. Oh, you have a center back who can at least keep stride to stride with a guy like Mbappe. And that's just the speed, because Bombito, he's growing a lot in the air. He's very good on the ball. He's a ball-playing center back. He has all the attributes of a modern center back.
Yeah, Herdman noticed his ball-playing ability very quickly, which is why at the Gold Cup he put him in the midfield, which really rubbed me the wrong way. I just didn't think that was a natural fit for him. I thought in the way that Herdman was playing, the outside right center back would be ideal for him. I still think in a back three, that's where he could play, but he's playing in a back four right now for the Rapids. And like everything Alex just said, he's a very different profile from the center backs we have, and has freakishly crazy speed. And against a front four or whatever this may be, and you don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but we know Mbappe is going to be on the pitch. I like it. So I'd feel comfortable. I'm assuming you want to put him in at the right center back, right?
Let's just put him in. That's what he's playing for club, so
yeah.
It's at least comfortable. I guess that leads to the next question before we build the rest of our four. Who's the goalie? Is it Max Crepeau we're assuming here?
Yeah. I don't think there's much. Yeah, I don't think there's much debate unless you've seen something from Dane that I haven't. I think that I do like Dane St. Clair. I do like some of our other options. I just think it's not much of a debate. Crepeau's the guy to go forward, and I'm very comfortable with that.
Works with me. And look, I mean, Crepeau unfortunately had a bit of bad luck this weekend. A bit of a questionable red card in Portland versus LAFC, as Denny Bouanga continues to annoy MLS fan bases with some of his antics, I guess you could call it. But no, Crepeau's You know what you're gonna get. And he did well last game, so may as well earn a big match.
Exactly, and he's good with the ball at his feet, which I love. But we got a question here, Alex, and I guess we can move to the fullback positions. Is a fullback question: who are your fullbacks 3-4, assuming that Richie and Sam aren't ready for the Copa America? I don't think there's any risk that Sam's not going to be. Is there? I think Richie's a massive risk, and I'd say we would do this starting 11 definitely without him. He's saying Davies and Alistair as 1-2, and I would say probably yeah. But yeah, sorry, Alex. Is there any risk that Sam may not be fit?
I think Sam should be there. Adekubi, the Whitecaps are managing him so well. He's like yet to play more than 45 minutes in a game. They're getting him up to full speed. So I think Adekubi should be there. It's interesting for the right back though, because if Larea isn't ready, that's a great question from Afrikaans, because I think right away, like, oh, maybe a Farsi, but clearly he hasn't showed the interest at the moment. He's very much leaning like, let me represent Algeria, which is fair.
I say, Alex, sorry for cutting off. I did want to go there with you, just because I just put out a report on it, and I don't know. I was looking to see, because there was a lot of rumors out there that he might not be eligible for the switch, considering that he played for Canada's U23s in the Olympic qualifiers, and there's been some issues and some other dual nats looking to get the switch over. So I was just doing a little bit of digging and asking around to see if there was any issues there, and if basically Farsi was open to represent Canada. And what I was told was basically that there's no issue whatsoever with his goal right now, and he's entirely focused on representing Algeria, and that it doesn't look like he will change his mind. So it was as clear cut as an answer I got, which is super unfortunate because I've really enjoyed watching Farsi so far this season. I still cover him. I know you still do too, Alex. So it was unfortunate, but I mean, it's never easy being a dual nat, and I respect Farsi's decision, but that pretty much rules him out. And I think I would have had him as probably as one of my 3-4. I would have probably had Sam, and because assuming Richie's not there, I would have had Farsi. So I'll throw it back to you after interrupting you there. Sorry, Alex. But I just wanted to get that out there. So if he's not an option, I'm trying to think of who would be.
That's why it's interesting, because you mentioned the right back options, Farsi right away. For whatever reason, right back depth is after Richie and after Alistair Johnson and Richie Larea, that's very good depth. But after that, if you do get an injury to a Johnston or a Larea, it is interesting. I've opened up the preliminary squad just to see if there's any names that kind of that we're maybe not thinking of, like as a natural right back. Because again, immediately the only one that comes to mind is a Ryan Raposo, for example, which could also be very much in this consideration. The only thing is he's a lot more of an attack-minded profile, right? Someone who brings a bit more of the offensive side of the game, playing as a true wingback out in Vancouver. Raposo, of course, made the preliminary squad. But yeah, legitimately I guess Dominic Zator. Dominic Zator is probably, I'd say, one of the next men up. Other than that, there isn't a whole lot of true natural right back options.
And it doesn't mean that we have to bring like two right backs. We've seen it before where like if we've seen it where Davies isn't considered a left back in Herman's eyes, but we'd only bring Adekubi because like Davies has never played as a natural left back, and the only other left back we brought was Adekubi. Now they can play. So if you look at this, I mean, Tejan has played right back before. You know what I mean? Like he could be considered the other option. You could bring Johnston and then just have Tejan if and also like there's makeshifts like a Bombito could get pushed out. I mean, we know his speed.
Ahmed could play there as well.
Ali Ahmed, and I remember saying that last time, and I got a couple comments saying like because I don't have any issues not bringing a natural one.
Chouanier can play there.
Exactly.
Sorry, just another name.
No, I agree. But in the last time we did this, I put Ali Ahmed as my backup right back, and in the comments we're like, Josh, why didn't you go with like a more natural option? And I'm like, well, there's not really one, and more than likely there'll be just a makeshift if Buchanan's not ready to go or Johnson isn't ready to go, depending what system we play. So, I mean, it's a really good question. I just don't know. I don't know what my answer would be. I would probably just go with one of the makeshift options at the moment over like a Dom Zator, just because I would just trust that Tejan can maybe slot in if he needed to, or Johnston we have there, and maybe push Bombito out. And I would like to see Ali Ahmed in there. So I think between all those options, we're good. And I probably wouldn't put Zator on my roster. I know we're not talking about a roster, but anyways, what about you, Alex?
Well, that's it. I mean, and plus we have to consider that at least what's nice with Johnston is as long as he's fit, this dude racks up 90s for fun. Like if there was air miles for playing 90 minutes, he'd be loaded. Like when he's healthy, remember at the World Cup, there'd be like 3 games, or not World Cup, but like World Cup qualifying, sorry, when it was the 3 game windows, it would be like Johnston, 90, 90, 90, and like literally everyone else would rotate except Johnson and Eustachio. Those were the 2 guys, and Boran, of course, in goal. Even Vittoria would have to rotate, but Johnston, nope, 90, 90, 90. So at least you're a bit more comfortable than of that, say, versus another position where you might not sure you're getting a 90 or whatnot. So that's just something else to.
I agree, and we had a couple comments saying Luke de Fougerolles can play there as well. He can. I know he can. Just he hasn't really had a start yet for Canada, so I don't know if he's like the go-to option. Like I said, probably like a Tejan Kalyamid type player will go there, but he can. Again, he's a makeshift option, which is probably why we'd go with one of them. So yeah, I guess to round out our back four there, Alex, Johnson Davies, we're going to stick him at left back. Is that the play here?
Yeah.
Or do you want or you want Sam in?
I think it's a good argument for Sam, but I think it's something like we've said for a while. Feels like Davies left back just seems to be the progression that makes sense, but that we haven't really, seen yet. And I think, for example, a Davies up against a Thuram, Davies against an Mbappe, that's the sort of matchup you want.
His matchup against Saka didn't throw you off there a little bit?
I mean,
Davies,
hey, look,
Davies had a tough night.
That's it. It was a tough night, but it's funny because with Davies, it feels like the wingers who have given him the most trouble over the last 5 years, if I'm going to say off the top of my head, are 3. It's Saka, it was Bernardo Silva, and it was Angel Di Maria. It's those like none of those 3 guys are like pace guys. Those are all 3 technically gifted, low center of gravity, love to like use their hips, love to like cut inside, be cheeky. Those are kind of the ones that give a Davies trouble because, funnily enough, he's had great success. Like remember 2020 or 2019 too, when he played Sancho with Dortmund, and no problem. Like any guys who were trying to beat him with speed down the right, like no problem. Against Chelsea, there was a winger back. I forget who it was in that 2020 series where he had a pretty good go. So funnily enough, I'd back him against like a Dembele or Thuram versus like some of those.
I agree, and I think the point is that we have our hats on, not Bielo's, and we all want to see Davies at left back. Maybe gives an opportunity for someone like a Jacob Schaffelberg, who I think has done more than enough to maybe deserve a start. We also have a Liam Miller, which we'll get to, but yeah, let's put Davies at left back. I'm happy with that, and then I'm curious to see where you're going to go with this, Alex, because we went with Bombito as one of our center backs in a back 4. It leaves Cornelius or Kamal Miller. I again, if I'm Bielo hats on, I feel like it's going to be Kamal Miller, but I personally would go with Cornelius. I think that would be a brand new look, Bombito Cornelius in a back 4. But I don't know. Like I said, I honestly would assume Bielo would go with Miller. That's what my gut tells me. But this is us, Alex. So do you agree, or do you want to see something else?
I think it's split down the middle. It really depends what we want, because that's what I've come to notice with the Miller versus Cornelius. Of course, Miller's kind of been preferred now for Canada, but you kind of get different skills with both. With Miller, you're getting good ball playing ability. That's kind of always been his strength. He's someone who likes to make a big slide tackle. He's someone that that's kind of his thing. Conversely, with the Cornelius, you're getting decent ball playing ability. Still pretty good. It's just Miller that's probably one of the elite parts of his game, at least one of the top parts of his game. And then Cornelius, he's good in the air. He's someone who can be a bit of a rock in the middle. So I think it depends. What more do you want? Like on that left side too, with Davies likely to run forward, do you want more of a Miller behind him, or do you want more of a Cornelius? That's kind of where I'd see. Especially you do have Bombito back there, and you can provide some cover for Johnson. So I'd say you could generally make a good argument for Miller or Cornelius. I think it would depend on what more of a profile you want.
I'll let you pick, Alex. Slot one in. You're in control right now of the starting 11. The pressure's on you. It looks like the chat is leaning a little bit towards Cornelius, but like I said, I think Bielo will go with Miller.
Well, let's ride with the chat, and look, I think it's something where if you're assuming Bombito can bring a bit more of the speed, then he can also, he can end up being that cover And you have Cornelius in there. But look, I'd say you could go really either way based on what you need. Maybe because again with Miller, you might not see the ball as much against France, so you don't need Miller's ball progression. You just need guys like Cornelius and Bombito who are good in the air to deal with Giroud, for example. So no, I think it's a fair choice.
Absolutely. And if you guys have just joined us right now in the chat, be sure to drop a like, say hello. We have obviously here because the France friendly was announced today, and Alex and I are building our kind of predicted starting 11 of what we would like to see. So if you have any opinions, put it in the chat. We're gonna try to roll through this a little bit quicker, and we're gonna get on to what we would just change slightly for the Netherlands. But we're moving on to the midfield right now, Alex. Then we'll go out wide. So for the 3-man midfield, I mean, I think we can slot in Eustachio. I'm assuming. I would assuming we have to put him as the 6. I don't know if I would trust anybody else in this pool right now to take on that responsibility. Even though, like, I know we could argue Eustachio is great as an 8, but you got an opinion? You think Piet? Would you like that? I mean, Kone's a lock as well. But I was
we can look. Basically, all I'm saying is every time I watch Montreal, I continue to be blown away with how quietly good of a season Samuel Piet seems to be having in the middle. Like, again, this weekend watched him against Cincinnati, and he was a rock. Lucho Acosta, all the threats, Bupenza that Cincinnati has, no problem for Piet. He's just so solid, and I wonder, again, with his form, with the other choices, like, of course, you got an Ahmed, you got a Chouanier, both great choices. But if you want to free up Eustachio and Kone, it quietly continues to seem that Piet is the guy. And, if we're assuming that you're going up against France with Griezmann, Tchouaméni, Rabiot, right, it might make a little sense to go a bit more conservative and do like a Piet Eustachio with Kone being a bit more of the free role player there.
I agree. Like last time when the roster dropped, we were talking about it and we saw Piet on the roster, and a lot of the chat didn't like that. We both argued. I mean, his form deserves it. It's just kind of what style you want to see. I am a little torn because I get what you're saying. Eustachio also isn't in the greatest form because he's just simply not playing right now at Porto. I don't usually think that matters when it comes to the national team. I think, we know what we're going to get out of Eustachio. For me personally, though, like, I just like the look of a Eustachio, Kone, and Ahmed, or even a Chouanier. I just, to me, it looks better. It doesn't mean that it's going to work against his France side. But I'm not overly convinced that even putting a Piet in there with a Kone and Eustachio would work as well. So I'm really torn. I would probably go Ahmed. I'd rather see that. It may not work, but it's a middle 3 that I could get behind going forward.
All I'm saying
I get your point. I get your point.
If you want, a bit of an alternative. Ali Ahmed has been very good in a bit of a different role, not a new role, because he's gonna play midfield as well for the Whitecaps. But at the moment, he's been playing left wing-ish, and he has been causing a lot of problems for MLS defenses and whatnot. There's also a scenario where you have like a Piet Eustachio Kone, and you have Ahmed in this like left free role, because Davies is going to overlap, so Ahmed can kind of cut inside and help the midfield too. Of course, it's tough because you got like a Liam Miller too, who 100% deserves to be in consideration for a start. You have Jacob Schaffelberg, for example, which, hey, it might be a big stretch to say go start against France, but he continues to perform in limited minutes for Canada. You have options at that left mid, but for example, an Ahmed could be nice because it gives you a bit of versatility of, he can cut in and make it a midfield, but he also has the speed and skill to go 1v1 and be annoying down that side.
Hey, if we're going for the result against a stacked team like this France side, I'd have no problem going Piet in the 6, Eustachio, Kone, getting someone like Ahmed in there, probably put Buchanan over on the right, and then David up front. We'd have to sacrifice Larin. I think that has to be it.
Well, that's it. That striker one, I think, again, it's with David and Larin. They have moments together. The reality is you just don't get enough out of two of them combined versus what you lose in midfield against top teams, where, yes, you're playing a team that won't play as much in midfield. You can get away with Larin David 100%. I think a Larin off the bench is a nice super sub. So honestly, I'd probably, if I were gonna build, I would go for I would round it off with what you said. So then I would just swap Eustachio and like that, and boom, 4-1-4-1. Bit of a flexible, something different, but
it's a different look. I like it. I would love to see how we would compete against a team like France. There's a lot to like. I do like it. And I think that out of the options, it could give them, a good opportunity to see what they have and to see if they can compete at this level. So, Alex, we're not going to do this next section very very long. So we're gonna move on we're gonna maybe take a look at the roster. I just want to ask you very quickly if this was, I'm not gonna build out or anything, but if we're against the Netherlands, is there anything that any player you'd maybe like to get a start that you think would match up well against the Netherlands that's not in the starting 11, or could you see that a very similar starting 11 that we just built competing against the Netherlands as well?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting because the Netherlands offers a bit more of a different threat. Because I'm looking at their team lately; they've been playing over the last year. 3-4-3 is their main formation. I think that's been the case ever since. I always get lose track with the Netherlands managers because they've been in like rotating so much. At the moment, it is Koeman, right? Because he ended up going back after the Boers weird stint. So it is Koeman, and since Koeman's come in, he's been using more of a 3-4-3. He did also experiment with the 4-3-3, but so you'd expect some variation of that formation. They're not as heavy in midfield, it seems, that as they are in France. So, for example, you don't have to worry, I'd say, as much with like throwing in a Piet like we did in this France one, because Netherlands, for example, in their 4-3-3, they put Veerman, Rangers, and Wijnaldum, and Wijnaldum, of course, playing in Saudi right now. Like, it's not the most dangerous, but then up front they got so many options. They got Xavi Simons, Memphis Depay, Cody Gakpo. There's a few other ones that are in pretty good form that I'm not even mentioning here. Let me just grab one of the names. They have Daniel Malin at Dortmund. I like his profile, very quick. He can cause all sorts of problems. They have options up front, so I think worrying about those options up front, but also knowing they play a 3-4-3, maybe a bit more speed down the flanks could be an area to target against them.
All right, I like it. We're going to move on to Canada and their manager talk. I'm just going to go through a couple comments here. We have Mr. Kane saying that Chouanier, and I have no problem getting him into one of these sides as well. We had Vincent saying that we always say this about our players, them moving to Europe, but it hasn't been happening. Seeing it with Bombito too, have seen nothing to indicate Europe, even Ahmed or even know who Ahmed and Bombito are. So there's that. I can say confidently, Vincent, though, that there are European clubs that are definitely aware of Ali Ahmed. As for Bombito, he just came onto the scene, man. This season right now that just began in MLS could be kind of his breakout campaign. And I mean, those stats that you see, I guarantee clubs in Europe have seen the pace that this guy has and maybe taking a little bit more of an eye to see how he progresses this season. I wouldn't be worried about Canadians going over to Europe because I think that we're in a really healthy time right now. We're seeing plenty of Canadians making the trek over to Europe. They don't always work out. We've seen the Richie Lareas go there and have to come back, but we've seen a lot of success stories. I mean, just look at Tejan Buchanan. A little bit of an unorthodox route to the highest level, but you can arguably put Bombito maybe in that, like potentially for a future in that discussion. He didn't have the most straightforward kind of route to Major League Soccer, and if he keeps doing what he's doing right now, I think there's a good opportunity that he could end up in Europe. And I'm pretty confident. I don't know if Alex wants to say anything more about that, but I'm pretty confident we'll see Ali Ahmed in Europe at some point.
Yeah, I think it's something where the profile it's trending that way, right? I think it's something where they just gotta keep getting reps, and games like this help. Because, for example, we forget it. It's something simple, but like Tejan Buchanan balling out for Canada against Belgium, against Croatia was a good way of him getting these transfers. If you're getting Bombito on the pitch against France, Ali Ahmed against the pitch against France, that's only going to accelerate it. And teams are aware of the Canadian market because they're going to start to realize that, because they love the American market. It's been a pretty good one. They've gotten some good players out of MLS over the years. The American market's starting to inflate. That's what happens whenever you start to do a good thing, right? It was like before, everyone used to raid Uruguay, Ecuador, all these countries. Now they're starting to raise their value. It's like, oh yeah, you want our players, well, you're gonna have to pay for them. It feels like Canada's kind of one of those where teams are gonna realize, like, oh, they got these. Watford went to Montreal and got a Kone for like $5 million. That could end up being a really good deal. They went up and got, Celtic got Johnston for $5 million. Like, okay, that was some smart piece of business. Let's go get this Ali Ahmed for a $4 or $5 million. Let's go get a Bombito for $2-3 million. Center backs will always naturally be a lot lower. So I think it's something where they just have to keep performing, and we'll see what happens from there, because there's been enough examples of guys like Buchanan and Johnston and Kone all making that jump off the back of strong seasons. Yeah, it's not like, all right, like some of those big American transfers you've seen, but it's growing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I don't see any indication that's going to slow down. There's a lot of success stories. I personally think Bombito and Ahmed are going to be two of those as well. And I'm curious to see what league they potentially, hopefully, one day go to. And I hope they finish off their season right now in MLS because both are having a very strong start.